So let's bring in Brilyn Hollyhand. He's the chair of the RNC's Youth Advisory Council. You guys are doing, look, President Trump is really doing much better with young voters than any Republican, at least in my lifetime, against the grain of these little annoying blue check paid Twitter twerps that are out there. This is the first time in a long time young people have gravitated towards a Republican candidate.
Oh, absolutely. And first of all, guys, let me start out by saying how much of an honor it is to come on a program that's not going to play the preschool red light, green light game with me as I try to talk by flashing colors on the screen. This is great. I'm getting a better setup than the presidential candidates are tonight, so I appreciate that. But no, you're absolutely right. President Trump is winning over youth voters in droves. Republican presidential candidate has not won the youth vote since 2003. This would be historic when it happens this November, and we're on the track to do that. What I'm hearing from my peers constantly while I was traveling on college campuses, giving speech tours, and also making sure that we're going to these youth events, places where presidential candidates haven't gone in the past. President Trump is going there. Another point, he's also joined TikTok. It was a little controversial at first, but there was a report out this morning that Trump's TikTok is now the official fastest growing political account in the platform's history, and he's been on there for less than a month. President Trump is winning over the youth vote. People like Scott Pressler are the king of the grassroots. I talked to Scott just this week because it's so important, not just to get the message out, but to make sure that our peers are registered to vote and have a plan to vote in November.
Okay, that's good to hear. And again, we're speaking with Brilyn Hollyhand. He is the author of One Generation Away. So check out his new book. That is impressive, young man. So I'm glad you're doing that. Let me ask you this. When it comes to youngsters and when it comes to President Trump, is there a certain like influence, social media type gravitational influence or pull towards Trump? Is it more the economy? What is it that's really grabbing the youth about Trump? Is there a couple of things or one thing specifically?
It's an array of things, but there's one big thing that I think I hear over and over and over again, and it's a future and a prosperous future. And he gives us the opportunity to revitalize the American dream because right now the stakes couldn't be higher. And that's the message that I share with my peers every single time I speak to them. Listen, we're on track to grow up in an America that our grandparents don't recognize, that our parents are starting not to recognize. This is an America that I want to grow up in, much less raise a family in, and we're getting towards that era of life. President Trump promises "Make America Great Again" as a campaign slogan, but really it's the way of life that my generation wants back. The most recent conversation I had with President Trump was backstage at an Alabama fundraiser, and we were talking, and he's waving his hands in the air, and he said, "Brilyn, what can I do to win the youth vote?" And I said, "Mr. President, two things. One, you're on social media, get on mainstream platforms. True social is great, but we got to get back on Instagram and some places where my peers are. And second, be authentic." And he's done both of those. He's gotten on Instagram, he's gotten on TikTok, and he's being authentic, which my generation loves, because Biden's the opposite of authentic. He goes out there and tries to do an ice cream photo shoot, and we all know it's just not genuine.
Also, think about this, woke has been in the lives of young voters since they were 12, 13, 14. There's a tendency amongst young people to kind of rebel against the authority, against the status quo, and woke has been with us. Look, I'll be 52. That's a couple of years. It's not, anything developmental in my life. But if you were 14, now you're 18, or you're 16, now you're 22, or whatever it is, you developed under this, and now you're sick of it.
Absolutely. I vividly remember being told in my kindergarten classroom a few years ago that humans were bad, we were killing the earth, we were introduced to the idea of climate change in kindergarten, guys. Wow. This is insanity. And I mean, we're experiencing it firsthand. I'm in Alabama, a very red state. Picture what's going on in California and New York. Picture what they're being taught in preschool classes. It's insane. And again, you're right. My generation's rebelling against that. We realize that it's fake. I mean, my kindergarten teacher told me we wouldn't have an earth today, much less to be alive and talking about it on debate coverage. So here we are, and we're realizing that, hey, we've got to come back to somebody that wants a prosperous future for America, and clearly that's President Trump.
Okay, so Brilyn, let me ask you, or actually let me say this. One thing that you mentioned, and you just did it in passing, and I thought this was very impressive. President Trump went to you and said, "Brilyn, what can I do?" I can't even imagine Joe Biden being able to get those words out, for one, so I want you to address that. And a couple more things I want you to address. The issue of abortion, what type of role is that going to play in this year's election, if you will, especially when it comes to the youth vote?
Sure. First of all, regarding the president, he absolutely takes the time to listen to my generation, which is rare in politics. It was very hard when you mentioned I'm the chairman of the RNC's Youth Advisory Council. That's something that we started last year because there was no table for Gen Z to get a seat at. We had to make our own table to get to kind of come to the conversation. So we started that. President Trump was obviously very supportive of it. The RNC's been supportive, and he wants to hear from us directly. He doesn't want to hear from us through aides. We have direct conversations, and I think that just shows his true character, his true personality that hopefully we could see on the debate stage tonight. As for abortion, I think that's an issue that obviously Republicans keep walking the tightrope on, and I don't think we should be. I think we should stop shying away in a corner and be proud of our pro-life position because for too long, Republicans have come out and not known how to message our positions. We have good policies. We're on the right side of history. But we don't know how to message it. So instead of going up to a woman and saying we're anti-this, anti-that, anti-that, say we're pro-life, pro-family, pro-woman, and explain your position. I fully agree that abortion's murder. Explain why abortion's murder. It's going to take hard conversations for my generation to be won over to the Republican side long term, and that's absolutely something that President Trump's willing to do. We've seen in the past few months. I think it's something the entire party needs to adopt.
All right, we got to leave it there, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up, we're going to wrap up our first hour, and then we're going to bring in some of the heavy hitters, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Mike Gallagher, the big names. Stay with the Salem News Channel for live coverage of Decision 24.